Hello, everybody, and happy Sunday, or whatever day it may be when you're watching. And just as a reminder before we get started, that this channel is for educational or maybe for legal purposes, entertainment purposes only. Repeat myself. So yeah. Anyways, keep that in mind when watching anything related to Forever Conscious Research Channel. And I want to welcome y'all. Hope you're doing well out there. And tonight, we are going to be going over the near-death experience of Mira Sai, or I'm probably butchering that, but that's all right. And before we get into the near-death experience, there's a really interesting thing that goes on in the spiritual community, especially those who are linked or directly involved with well-known gurus or well-known sects of spiritual practices. And without fail, you can all but guarantee if there is some sort of popular figure, whether it's in the country or region that you live in locally, or if it's a very big name out there like Sadhguru, the the wife murderer, allegedly, apparently, at least that's what's kind of out there, whether you believe it or not. So we'll just say allegedly, but there is a lot of information on that, and a lot covered up too. Anyways, putting him aside. The interesting thing is that oftentimes when you're looking into the big names out there, they are often going to have connections to a few different types of organizations. One could be the United Nations. One could be the World Economic Forum. Sometimes even the Trilateral Commission. There's a lot of Aspen, what is it? The Aspen Group. I forgot what that one is. It's Aspen something. But and a number of others, right? These links permeate society and are latch on to different areas of society, and that doesn't stop at religions and gurus, whether it's Western, Eastern teachings. It doesn't matter. They're there. All right. And the funny thing is Mira, she's got a hell of a history, man. And so what I'm going to do is just play a computer voice. I'm not going to read this whole thing because it's really long. Well, not really long, but I just don't feel like reading it tonight. So I'm going to just play this really quickly because context is always important. Like, you have to have some sort of background on the individual. Just do some surface level digging on any experiencer. Now, but don't fall into the endless breaking down of cases either in their history, right? I mean, you just want to get a little taste of what's going on. just and then move to the next case. Like never, like in your own research, the worst thing you do is get bogged down in one specific case. It's all about the collective data, right? That's where we get the big picture. That's how you can prove the matrix reincarnation soul trap to yourself. So really, I mean, it's obviously up to you. Everyone's got to do what they got to do, but my advice would be to, pick and experience your case and move along. Do a little surface level research and move along. I mean, there are hucksters out there. There are. Now, do I believe that Mira's case is that? No. I think her NDE fits very well with other NDEers. It's not completely extravagant or anything like that. So I think the case itself is legitimate. Now, something we've talked about before we get into the background of her is how the Matrix marketing department will reward certain individuals. Now, more often than not, we see cases where someone has a hell of a childhood or a hell of a first half of their life, and then they're rewarded after they have their NDE, or maybe things were slightly changing beforehand, and then the NDE happened. But generally, it often looks like a life of hell early on, or up until the NDE occurs, or spiritually transformative experience, or after this communication. We can go down the whole laundry list of experiencer types. And then things shift. And sometimes an amazing lifestyle could come out of that. Now, make of that what you will, but my kind of gut on Mira is that given her overall life, her overall picture, at least from young adulthood forward to today, is that, look, she had a life script, and it was overall a pretty good ride overall. And I think the Matrix rewards certain individuals and may give them a little bit of a break depending on the incarnation and the life script, obviously, and maybe how easily manipulatable the individual is too. I mean, I think there's a bunch of different factors that go into this. And then of course there's just, Matrix foot soldiers, and any or all could apply to this specific case. And I know some people may not like that, but that's my opinion. I think the system has to promote, it has to bring certain figures up to the forefront in society to continue to hold the illusion true. All right, to continue to prop it up in many different ways. And if I was running this place and a parasitic freakazoid, that's what I would do too. I mean, you're obviously going to do what you can to make sure that the scam isn't revealed. And again, that's not saying that Mira knows any of this. All right, let me make that very clear. So Mira, if you happen to ever run across this video, it has nothing to do with you as an individual. It has to do with they've taken you for a ride. And, Mira's thought on all this is that everything is about love. What a shock. Just like we see constantly. So, anyways, I'd like to just present you with her background before we get into the case. Oh, hold on. I'm sorry. I have the wrong thing up. Hopefully this works right. I've had many issues doing this in the past. Okay. Come on, where are you? Okay, there we go. I think that'll work. Come on. What the heck? Okay, cool. There we go. Sorry, this isn't, Fox News or ABC or NBC.
A philosophy major from Lady Sri Ram College, Delhi, known as Arti Gupta at the time, Mira Sai also pursued studies in child developmental psychopathology at Stanford University CA and World Religion Studies in Ohio CA, where she was ordained as a spiritual minister. She has also studied and practiced as a highly successful financial advisor, well known as Arti Gupta, a name people trust, designing financial portfolios for corporations and individuals, including the formation of wills and trusts, and receiving numerous awards every year. She also practices as a realtor in California, specializing in interior design, construction, and refurbishing properties. At present, Mira Sai is the founder/CEO of a 501c3 nonprofit public charitable. A philosophy major from Lady Sri. A philosophy major from.
I'm so sorry. I thought I could pause it and commentate on it, but no, it's hold on, I'm sorry. Let's see if.
A philosophy major from Lady Sri Ram College, Delhi, known as Arti Gupta at the time, Mira Sai also pursued studies in child developmental psychopathology at Stanford University CA and World Religion Studies in Ohio CA, where she was ordained as a spiritual minister. She has also studied and practiced as a highly successful financial advisor, well known as Arti Gupta, a name people trust, designing financial portfolios for corporations and individuals, including the formation of wills and trusts, and receiving numerous awards every year. She also practices as a realtor in California, specializing in interior design, construction, and refurbishing properties. At present, Mira Sai is the founder/CEO of a 501c3 nonprofit public charitable organization, the Sai Foundation in California, and co-founder of Holistic Living Incorporated USA, a company specializing in hospice programs and medical tourism. She became the CEO of her own large-scale wholesale clothing business, with her showroom on Broadway, New York City, USA, at the young age of 23 years, when a holiday to New York in 1973 proved quite significant, becoming as it did, a permanent move to America. Having moved to California in 1982, she served on the board of trustees of the Fremont Temple in California and also served as vice president of the Nargis Dutt Cancer Foundation of the Northern CA chapter, with Shri Sunil Dutt MP, organizing fundraisers in the U.S. and sending medical equipment for cancer patients to hospitals in India. A substantial donor, she was very often seen at California political fundraisers for Jerry Brown, Dianne Feinstein, Pete Wilson, and the like. Highly regarded. She was invited as guest of honor at public Indian functions and Indian associations, which were invariably always covered by media. Enjoying a high-end lifestyle, Mira Sai's life took a 360-degree turn, with a near-death experience in a fatal car accident, while driving her Mercedes-Benz convertible in 1994. She experienced going to the other side, and then mysteriously returning back, alive. With this profound near-death experience opening her up to the higher awareness of the purpose of life and the truth of her reality, it was inevitable for her normal, ambitious, worldly life to take a new turn and enter into a dramatic phase of spiritual orientation, with a far deeper and higher purpose. This was not about going into the forest, but living in the world, with head in the forest.
That's right, live in the world.
It was about being in the world, not of it, but for it. Having gained the ultimate experience of oneness with the Supreme Consciousness when she was on the other side, the realization of the impermanence of the drama of the life movie and the permanence of the screen it is played upon, became experientially clear. Detachment from the world and worldly activities set in, and with her inner guidance prompting her, she walked away without looking back, from her name, fame, wealth, and properties to Sai Baba's ashram in Puttaparthi. For 5 years, she focused and delved deeper into her higher self, while living a simple life in the ashram, at which time, she was also blessed with the rare occurrence of a name change, from Arti Gupta to Mira Sai, given in an interview by Sai Baba. Upon her return to California, her non-profit organization, the Sai Foundation, opened a multi-faith Sai temple sanctuary in San Jose, CA for 5 years till 2011, which fed more than 30,000 people over a 5-year period and distributed blankets and clothes for the homeless in winter. For the hundreds of people who visited, it offered meditation, stress relief yoga, counseling, her own invention of a Sai yoga program, devotional and spiritual talks, professionally organized spiritual functions, prayers, regular devotional singing and many more activities of like nature. Mira Sai has also had singularly rare experiences in the course of her numerous journeys to highly sacred places in the Himalayas. Climbing perilously steep mountains in snow and heat, bathing and meditating in almost a dozen holy rivers, in freezing temperatures, and meditating in powerful caves in the Himalayas, as also at Mt. Shasta in the US, and in Buddhist monasteries in Thailand are only some of the remarkable spiritual engagements she has been involved in over the years. At present, she is in the process of building a world-class professional recording studio in Sri Satya Sai Baba's ashram in Puttaparthi, India, to provide a platform for musicians/artistes for creative expression of their talents in devotional music and other classical genres. Furthermore, the installation by her of an industrial drinking water RO plant in Puttaparthi is quenching the thirst of more than 2,500 people every day. She has personally narrated and produced 2 professional audio books of Bhagwan Sri Satya Sai Baba's Vidyavahini and Gitavahini, and a devotional songs CD called Sai Ananda. She enjoys painting and is an author too, having recently published her first book, Ecstasy, Standing Inside Oneself, and a beautifully rendered music CD album with poem narration. The last 40-odd years, with the grace of her spiritual master, Sai Baba, have seen Mira Sai negotiate with aplomb a multifaceted journey. From being a CEO at the age of 23 and tackling different facets of the corporate business world of America to being drawn into the mighty spiritual world, being a millionaire and then leaving it all without a murmur, becoming an ascetic and then re-entering the world again for good works, traveling extensively, and being at ease with both a prince or a pauper. All these are only some of the momentous life experiences gathered by Mira Sai, and which have shaped her unique personality. A philanthropist, non-judgmental, compassionate and a loving soul, Mira Sai has garnered a wealth of experience in many varied areas. The trials and tribulations, highs and lows, gains and losses, that came her way, have been tackled with equanimity and courage. Fame, fortune, wealth, all courted her, but it was the one life-changing experience of the accident that put it all into clear perspective for her, bringing as it did, realization of the non-permanence of it all, and the truth of her own reality and the reality of all existence. You are the power, you are the truth, you are the love, you are all that you seek.
Okay, so as you can see, quite the background. And this is the Women Economic Forum, WEF. Now, what's interesting is if it, I know the AI voices suck. I'm sorry, but it's better than me rattling it off to you. But I mean, talk about a matrix marketing department script life script if I've ever seen one. There's this other one we're going to go over, and this is conveniently the UN body confers special status, the Sri Satya Sai Central Trust. It will enable the trust to interact with the UN Secretariat and participate in its programs, the release said. And basically all this article says is how the ashram that she is linked to is conveniently linked to the UN. What a shock. And I'm telling you, these connections pop up over and over and over for the big names. This is something you will find in your own research. If it's a big spiritual name out there on the internet or where you are locally, you're all but guaranteed to find some sort of connection to the matrix parasitical control structure. That's just the way it is. And make of that what you will. Some will kind of get what that's all about, and some may call me crazy, and I'm cool with whatever. So, all right. So yeah, we're going to get into the near-death experience now, and I think you're really gonna like this one. It's a hell of a case, and I want to give a big shout out to the channel that did the narration on this one, Vivek, and this is going to be a reading from, and I believe it was Enderf. Yeah, an Enderf submission that Mira had put out there, and I'm gonna drop a link in the chats right now for y'all, so you have a copy of that if you'd like to check it out later. And I'll also, once we get started, make sure to leave other links as well, related to the UN article and the WEF.org website that she is connected to, and no doubt links to the organization that many of us know, and I'm not even going to name it. So, but again, as far as the NDE goes, I think it's authentic, but it's just one of those cases where you can see the Matrix marketing department, not just in the experience, but her whole life script. And one of the big parts is what she buys, like a new Mercedes, I think in the late 80s, if I recall. And as she gets the car, has this voice in her say, "You will die in this car." So basically having a premonition. Well, fast forward a few years, and she's, I believe, in California. Don't quote me on that, but I believe she's in California, Northern California. And, well, had a bad feeling from the jump of that day. So that's when the quote unquote accident happened. So, or the Matrix scripted car wreck. So remember, there's always suffering, pain and suffering involved. All right, so here we go, my friends. And again, big shout out to the channel, I think Vivek or Vivek, Vivec. He's got a lot of great experience cases, mostly breakthrough trip stuff, but this is an NDE case he covered. And and just to kind of show you the reason why he covered the case is because he sees the similarities, along with many others in the breakthrough trip community, of how NDEs and breakthrough trips and a bunch of other type of experiencer cases all link. And that's what I'm showing on this channel all the time. These connections are massive, and they're in our face. And the question is for everyone is, are you going to take advantage of that? You're going to take advantage of being able to plow through all these different types of experiencer cases in an effort to prove what's going on to yourself, because that's number one. If you're not proving this to yourself, then and just blindly trusting me or trusting anyone who discusses the topic, I don't think that's good. I think everyone really needs to do their own research and go out there and take as much time as you need, but also take breaks. This information gets heavy. It does, but at the end of the day, you will feel much better for it, and feel empowered. That's the beauty too. Like, that's like the king of everything. Like, you want to reach a point where you have this firm inner knowing that you are in control, that it's everything, the ball's in your court. But, when it comes to this topic, this is the end of the road as far as truth goes. This is the whole soul trap thing is really the last dance. And what comes out of it, despite it will be a rocky road in the beginning if you're looking into this stuff, but at the end, or at some point, you will feel that self-empowerment and take advantage of it, and won't have any doubt whatsoever that you hold all the cards in liberation. Not the illusion, not the attachments, not the matrix, nothing. So just really, really think about what I said there, because I'm just trying to help and empower every single one of you. And my channel should only be a stepping stone for your sovereignty and liberation. So, all right, let's get rolling. And here is the near-death experience.
Born from the cosmic womb. A near-death experience report by Mira Sai from the Near-Death Experience Research Foundation.org. My name at the time was Artie, and I was a very successful financial consultant. When I had purchased my white 560 SL Mercedes convertible in 1988 or 89, can't remember which year, these words had popped into my head. You will die in this car. Of course, I didn't give any credence to this thought at the time. But today, after almost 6 years, those words seem to be repeating themselves to me. Just before death, July 30th, 1994. That morning I had driven about 400 miles with my secretary from San Francisco for a couple of meetings with some clients. For some reason throughout that day I had been feeling somewhat uneasy, like this was a premonition of sorts. So I had been in a quiet prayer mode the whole day. I had been invited by one of my clients in the city of Glendora for their 80-year-old mother's birthday celebration. Afterwards, it was almost 11:30 PM by the time I was able to call it a day and leave for the hotel. I had thought that I would tell my secretary I was extremely tired, and it would be better if she was the one to drive back to San Francisco after the birthday party. As destiny would have it, I was so tired I forgot to tell her, while very mechanically getting into the driver's seat. Seatbelts were not mandatory in 1994. Without bothering to put on my seatbelt, I started the car and began driving. After about 10 minutes on the road, a car with 2 young boys was driving in the left lane. Suddenly it swerved to the right, coming into my lane right in front of me, then stopping abruptly at the stop sign that was just ahead. I had nowhere to go, so I slammed on the brakes, or so I thought. In my immediate shock and sleepy exhaustion, I had pressed down on the accelerator instead. The 560 SL is designed to go from 0 miles per hour to 60 miles per hour within seconds, and that's just what it did. I shot forward at full speed, and crash. In that moment of impact, I felt my whole body lift up, fly forward with great force and hitting something. Next thing I knew, I was seeing this white stream of light travelling inside my body, which also filled with a brilliant electric white light. It looked like light travelling in light. As I looked at this moving light energy, I realised I was also experiencing it. This powerful white energy which was moving from my solar plexus towards the top of my head. I was moving very fast, yet simultaneously I appeared to be moving very slowly. Somehow it seemed very natural for my movement to be slow and fast at the same time.
Okay, so I mean, you got to remember she's got belief systems already ingrained in her. She's got an interesting past, which we'll talk about a little more. But belief systems ingrained. You know, she starts moving in something like a tunnel, and the difference between those that have the belief system of the system and those that don't, like us, and realize the illusion, the greater illusion of all of this, and the deception, is that we as creator beings can stop it. So if for some reason, some weird reason, you find yourself in the tunnel, or you know, hurling down the tunnel, or in the fake void, remember, you as a creator being can use your intention to get out of that situation. But the best way to look at all this is none of this applies. It doesn't apply because you're simply not going to be involved with any of this in the first place. But if for some weird, freaky reason, there's something nestled away in your subconscious that starts that process, don't forget that you can stop it. Just have to Use your intention.
Was I in perfect balance? There was no sense of duality.
Hey, Dusty.
I knew that this light energy was my prana, otherwise called life force. The prana was moving upwards through my body.
So see, she knew. She's already predisposed to a certain set of beliefs that the Matrix is completely willing to hurl at her in an effort to convince her and kind of make her go down a certain path of options, which are all designed by the Matrix system.
The prana was moving upwards through my body, almost as if being pulled by some sort of magnetic power above my head. Just then I experienced a sinking feeling, very much like one feels when beginning to plunge down a roller coaster. I felt myself go into a gentle convulsion with an upward movement. The next moment, it was all gone. There was no light, no body or anything. It was the strangest feeling and yet so familiar. It was as though I had experienced it many times before.
I mean, that's key, right? Strangest feeling. It's familiar. As though I've experienced that many times before. Well, why does she feel that way? Because she's reincarnated here a bunch of times. That's why it's familiar. And we really are. I mean, humanity are we're creatures of habit. I mean, I know I am. I mean, I look at it and I'm like, oh, it's like I'd like to break the chain of certain things, but it's sometimes easier said than done, right? But the belief systems, the attachments, the addiction to the sensory experience and all that stuff, the reason why so many feel like they are at home or that they've been there before or that everything felt familiar is because that's all we remember. We have not allowed ourselves to detach from everything just before death. So the biggest part, like Dan and I were talking about last night, is ridding ourselves of attachments at the time of death, leading up to, like, if for some reason you get some sort of diagnosis or something, that's when the rubber meets the road. You got to stand up for yourself. But until then, that doesn't mean that you should deprive yourself of enjoying your experience while here on Earth. Remember, it's your last time. Make the best of it.
Without the body, I found myself floating in a dark void. I was totally confused as to where I was and what was really happening. All I could see was total darkness everywhere, but I wasn't afraid. At a distance, I saw a pale golden vehicle-like thing in the shape of a small boat. The boat was brilliant in its golden hue, and it was coming towards me.
Now, see, like this right here reminds me of Egyptian kind of belief things, or you can even have the Hindu thing as well linked into this. So we have something nestled away from her belief systems taking form in her experience. Remember, she's in the void. She's in the void. This is the Matrix void. This is a fake, false, phony, pathetic void. It's not the real void of your making. It's not. That's so important. It's not the void of your making. It's the void of the Matrix. It's replicating the situation so that you feel comfortable. And I think what the Matrix does is it processes all of us down to a T, spits out an experience, should you have an NDE or if you're dying, whatever the case may be, and it spits out the most optimal situation possible in an effort to continue to win you over and stay attached.
The center hollow portion of this golden boat seemed to be filled with that same shimmering, brilliant white light I had seen inside my body. As it moved closer, I could see in the center on its bed of white light that there was a very ethereal human body. The body was lying very still on its back, draped in a pale golden gown and glowing gloriously in the dark night. It was a magnificent sight to behold.
Glowing gloriously in the dark night. Remember, the light is always there in some form in the void-like experiences. So remember, it's the system is playing both ends of the spectrum. It's got the light, either maybe you might hurl down the tunnel into the light, or you might be engulfed by light beings or communicated with light beings, or you might hurl down the tunnel and end up in the matrix void. But both sides of the spectrum are playing the same game. And all it wants to do is win us over. That's it.
As it came closer, my entire being went into shock when I saw the face of this body. It was me. Oh my God, I realized. I'm dead. I was completely jolted by this truth. I looked at myself for the first time and saw I had no body. I was just a spark of light and was now linked to this sparkling boat. Almost immediately, the golden boat tilted upwards with the feet of the motionless body pointing upwards and head below it. The boat transported me faster than the speed of light, almost like a thunderbolt slicing through the dark night and disappearing into the void. Almost as if I had fully woken up after a long sleep, I found myself surrounded by an all-pervasive brilliance. There was no boat, no body structure, no dark void, nothing. There was only this dazzling, electrifying, brilliant white light all around. The light was everywhere. There was nothing except this brilliant consciousness. It seemed to have a consistency of the ever finest, minutest electric-like sparkles, and was energetically similar to the bed of light I had come on, except that this light was all-pervasive and limitless. It could perhaps be compared to the light of thousands of brilliant stars reflected in millions of sparkling diamonds, all-encompassing, self-luminous, and pulsating with electric energy, very delicate and smooth.
Okay, so let's see, who was it? Black Uni had asked about the boat. Okay, so in my opinion, what we're kind of getting through symbolically is, it's like the crossing over, and it goes back to Egypt and how in the afterlife you're taken over across the river or the lake or the ocean. I mean, whatever, however you want to frame it. I mean, of course it's subjective to whoever's experiencing it, but clearly there is some sort of belief system that drives that way of thinking. So my kind of take on her experience is that she's probably familiar with a lot of different spiritual teachings, and she kind of alludes to that in her end of testimony. So, it's just another example of how everything is customized.
I seem to know that the light was the supreme infinite light that is God, the cosmic consciousness. It is truly impossible to describe in mere mortal words this pure love, this vital energy, this infinite light, this supreme absolute consciousness, this presence which is commonly referred to by most of humanity as God or the Creator. It can only be experienced. So please forgive my humble effort with limited vocabulary to try and share what I experienced. At this moment I was literally standing on air and was an electric body of light. I was in this dazzling white void, this brilliant nothingness filled with comfort, delight, and a deep knowing that I had reached my final destination. I seemed to know that this was the ultimate white effulgent light. experiencing myself as a shimmering, sparkling white light energy, pulsating with some kind of ethereal, ethereal, electric life force. My being was flooded with a gentle, very expansive love energy. The energy was like a soft embrace from that all-encompassing light presence. This light presence of pure, unconditional love seemed to be in me and around me. It was all-pervasive and extended into infinity. Strangely, there seemed to be no difference between this light and my light being. Even more bewildering was that this conscious loving presence seemed to be the nature and substance of all of existence. In sheer delight, my light self was almost skipping in the air as a further wave of knowing passed through me. I whispered to myself, "This is the real me." In complete wonderment, with a sense of déjà vu and awe, I heard myself say, "I know this place.
I know
this place. I've been here before. I made it.
I know this place. I know this place. I've been here before. I've made it." It's the cycle. This is the cycle showing itself. We see it constantly. They feel like they're at home. They feel like where they're supposed to belong. But the big question I'm always putting forward here is like, well, can't we think bigger? Can't we think bigger and beyond all this? Why, oh why, are the same things appearing over and over and over again? It's like, yeah, and it shows a few things. It shows how we are in this cycle, right? It shows that we are limiting our thinking and not going beyond what may or may not be possible. And I think the possibilities are endless, limitless. But this system has us believing all sorts of crazy shit. And all it wants us to do is believe for this one last lifetime. And then what does it do? Zaps the memory. Rinse and repeat. Rinse and repeat. Zap the memory, rinse and repeat. Or go into other realms. Rinse and repeat. Memory wipe, memory wipe. I mean, it's just the same thing over and over again. Why is it so hard for us to think beyond all of this? You know, I'm just kind of generalizing. It's like we've been indoctrinated. The reason why everything is indoctrination in this realm is because the number one goal it has is keeping us here and keeping us spinning our wheels and thinking outside of ourselves when we have everything within this entire time.
I finally made it back. Drinking in the nectar of the loving presence which enfolded me, I saw with complete amazement a very interesting transference starting to happen. There was a string of atoms starting to flow out from within the left side of my electric body, and they disappeared upwards into nowhere. Almost as if from thin air, a much finer frequency of atoms seemed to be appearing, and were entering through my right side into this same electric light body. I was watching and experiencing at the same time, again with no sense of duality. My entire being was being totally emptied, refueled and reprogrammed with this ethereal, orderly interchange of atoms.
Reprogrammed. Listen to what she says. Or
duality. My entire being was being totally emptied, refueled and reprogrammed with this
emptied, refueled, reprogrammed
ethereal, orderly interchange of atoms. I saw that the new entry was made of a vastly different energy and seemed to have a much more expansive and delicate DNA energy.
Programming energy, perhaps, that you're going to take back to Earth and spread far and wide, either knowingly or unknowingly?
It had a new wave of very lightweight, subtle cellular frequencies as they spiraled in, expanding and changing the previous electric body formation. All of the above was happening very fast, and yet seemed to take an eternity. enfolded in the comforting wrap of pure divine love during this cellular exchange. It seemed as though I was gradually disappearing with the atoms leaving this electric light body. Almost as if another me was birthing through the newer, finer atoms entering into this light form. My whole being was cleansed and purified, making it ready for its next role in God's divine drama.
God's divine
I wish to take a final look and say goodbye to the world I had just left behind.
I'm sorry, can I just say how much I despise the whole God's divine drama, or the creator or the source's divine drama? That's something that pops up from time to time. It's like, I don't want anything to do with your divine, quote unquote, divine drama. Get out of here with that. I don't want anything to do with your divine drama.
Purified, making it ready for its next role in God's divine drama.
Divine.
I wish to take a final look and say goodbye to the world I had just left behind. I looked over behind my non-existent shoulder, somehow expecting to see my world, but to my complete shock I saw that there was nothing there. My earthly world didn't seem to exist. There was no world, no universe, no galaxy, no earth, nothing. Nothing existed except this soft, conscious presence, this pulsating brilliance, this pure love that was everywhere as all pure white light. Oh my God, how could that be? I exclaimed to myself.
Yeah, how?
Where has it gone? What about all I went through as Artie? It was all real. How could it have just disappeared?
Because you fell for it. You continued to apply yourself into and ingratiate yourself into the illusion of the sensory experience and bought it every step of the way. And, you know, the whole financial padding that went along with all this doesn't help things. Because remember, the Matrix has a ready-made system sitting there waiting for innocent individuals to fall into and continue their path, but be stuck.
A gentle response seemed to come from the cosmic wisdom that was all around. But how could it be real when it has just disappeared? There was so much knowledge that was shared with me that I can't share it all here. The response said, "What is real is only that which is permanent and changeless. That which changes is within the mirage of time, and truly non-existent. Consciousness, however, as a gentle, delicate, smooth, flowing process is ever present, even within the human form, above and beyond the mind, as it is the experiencelessness underlying all experience. It never changes, never disappears, and it is therefore the only reality." I asked, "But if this consciousness alone is real, the world was an illusion? Then where did it come from?" It replied with, "Like all manifestation, the world too is the creation of the great illusion or great delusion, which being the creative aspect of this supreme consciousness, or the Lord, is the divine movie projector of life."
I mean, the great delusion is like, it's like she's there, right? It's like she's right at the border of that firm inner knowing, but yet she's giving the illusion the credence, the validity that it so desperately craves.
In the all-powerful play of the realm of creation, just as a mirage in the desert disappears when viewed from a certain perspective, your life as Artie on Earth has disappeared when viewed from the perspective of the divine self, where you are now. Only the eternal is real, and from the viewpoint of that reality, all that is non-eternal disappears.
And so, I mean, this is a topic that comes up over and over. We've talked about it with Wayne, we've talked about it with Dan, and the topic comes up. It's like, hey, well, what if we came here to experience what it's like to die? What if we came here and wanted to experience this whole thing, this whole material realm, because we could experience something like death. We could experience not remembering. We can experience not being a high-functioning, high-level creator being. I mean, I think there's a lot to be said about that. And, but once you get kind of in the grips of the system, and it kind of becomes like too little too late. And that's where things kind of fall apart. That's where, I mean, all you have to do is look at the world, right? And say to yourself, well, yeah, I'm okay in my heated or my air-conditioned room. I've got food I could put on the table. I got a fridge, and on and on. All the modern comforts. But, so many don't think about the suffering that goes on outside of here. And that doesn't mean that, that many of you haven't suffered your own tribulations. But I guess it's so easy to kind of discount things when you live in modern society, and so many seem to do that. I know a lot of you don't, but that's the unfortunate part about the society we live in. It's like, I was just watching a YouTube channel today from Nigeria, and you watch them, and it's just so sad. Like, some things, I don't know. The point is like you connect with suffering, right? You realize that others suffer too. And even if I hate saying this, but even if it's a game, let's just throw it on the table, because it has to be thrown on the table. If it is a game, why is it so sick and twisted? Because I don't think it's just a game. I think it really is a trap. A trap. And what it's designed to do is get us to consent and file in one by one. And then once you're here and the door is closed behind you and you start falling into the illusion, it becomes very difficult to get out of it. But that's why the game thing doesn't sit well with me. It just doesn't. But I think it's kind of framed like a game just prior to arrival, and probably as we go over the terms of service once we pass the gates, or before we pass the gates.
All that is non-eternal disappears. Yet of course, you, being eternal Atman, the soul, can still view the world of illusion if you wish. I asked, so my life as Artie never really existed at all? It was an illusion? It replied, oh, it existed, but just as a dream exists, or a movie, or a mirage. I continued questioning. So the world was just a figment of my imagination? How did I create it? With my thoughts and desires? The reply echoed all around me. Yes. As it reverberated within my being. Yes, I understood now. The world had all been only in my mind. A thought and senses created illusion and delusion. Without the senses, mind and body, there was now no ego to perceive the world illusion. It had all existed and happened only in my mind. Our true reality exists outside of the mind, which is where I was at the present moment. I realized the true vastness of my being and the minuscule nature of the cage of the earthly body. The roles I had played through the many lifetime dramas with different bodies flashed again.
The many lifetimes of earthly bodies. The many lifetimes. If that doesn't say it, I don't know what does.
The roles I had played through the many lifetime dramas with different bodies flashed again into knowing. I smiled, seeing there was absolutely no attachment whatsoever to any of them. How could I, when it was just a play of mind? I had come to terms with the fact that once I, my ego consciousness, left the body, my mind-created world also disappeared. Universal laws seemed to unfold rapidly and poured into my entire electric wave body. I realised that the real goal of the mind-created life game was to remove the veil of delusion and ignorance and reach the ultimate truth of one's reality in life itself.
The ultimate truth within the matrix. That's the difference. It's the ultimate truth within the matrix system. So, but then conveniently, they're not allowed to remember. Can't be stated enough how many NDEers, how many experiencers come back or come here and think that, oh, well, I have the answers and this and that. And then what are they readily admitting constantly over and over and over and over again is that they don't know. They have no clue. They just, a lot of times they'll openly admit that they hope that what they are doing is what they're supposed to be doing. I mean, they always reveal themselves. Now, that has nothing to do with them as an individual. It just has to do with the data, the patterns within all this. So, you know, I'm not crapping on any experiencer. I don't, including Mira. I think everyone has to go through their own process. But the beauty is that we live in a time where we can see these patterns up front and center and prove this place to be one big fat deception.
And reach the ultimate truth of one's reality in life itself. This truth, this self I was bathing in and which had encompassed my being, was nothing but love. The truth was love. Pure, unconditional, universal love that is almost non-achievable in human terms. It was the fabric of this consciousness of which I was part. Yes, because love is God and God is love. It was very clear that the cosmic composition was made up of nothing but love. Love is the God glue that is holding all together.
All right, so where is the complaint department? I'd like to file a complaint because the whole love thing, I ain't buying it.
It was very clear that the cosmic composition was made up of nothing but love. Love is the God glue that is holding all together. I realised I was not just inside the love, but rather one with it. This
Duality.
Universal body of love, of God.
The duality of
This
love.
was completely natural to me, as flame is to fire because it is fire. This was home, and I wanted to be here forever. Immediately with the emergence of this thought wish, the ego wave that was Artie seemed to gracefully meld into the Supreme Presence, dissolving into that ocean of love. Artie as the earthly Artie was no more. An incredible wave of freedom splashed over my being, almost like coming out scrubbed fresh and clean after a long overdue bath. The cellular interchange of atoms with their spiraling exit and entry had stopped because reprogramming of my electric light body was completed. I was birthing a new life later known as Mira S. I knew without a doubt that life on Earth was just a playground of experience, an assignment from God, a mirror projection of the divine.
An assignment from God, a mirror projection of the divine. Well, let me just say this. If this is the divine play, and this is what it's supposed to be like down here, well, I want nothing to do with that divine psychopath. Okay? Because if this thing is all about love, if this thing is all about looking out for us, like we've all been told time and time again, of course, depending on your belief system that you grew up with or what you've kind of fallen into throughout your life, then again, where is the complaint department? Because it's failing miserably. It allows children to be tortured. It allows children and men and women to starve at night, to not have access to clean drinking water, and we can, or housing, and we can go on and on and on. We can roll it all out there, but I know you all get my drift. When does the BS end? When does calling this system out for what it truly is begin? Where is it? Let's just call it what it is. It's parasitic. It's a deception of epic proportions. Enough is enough.
Mira S. I knew without a doubt that life on Earth was just a playground of experience.
Playground.
An assignment from God. A mirror projection of the divine.
Oh, yeah. You know, you mirror projection from the divine. Yeah. How many NDEs? I know we talked about this earlier, but I'm just going to bring it up again. How many have we talked about on the channel where they, you know, it's like we have to live through God's eyes when we come here. I'm not going to be going through any of this crap for quote unquote the divine or God or source or the creator. Why do I have to come down here and deal with this BS? Get God's ass down here. Let him go through it. Let her go through it. Let it go through it and deal with all this garbage. Why am I involved with this mess? Why are you involved with this mess? Let's wake up.
In each new lifetime, as the soul makes spiritual progress,
call it out for what it is.
Its vibrational frequency gets tuned to a faster, higher, and finer level depending upon its degree of evolution. The transformation continues until the frequency level is fine-tuned to such a degree that it connects with the frequency of the cosmos itself, which then allows it to gain entry into cosmic consciousness, one's true self, which is eternal bliss, otherwise known as Ananda. In the light presence, everything and anything could be readily created or manifested. It was in the nature of this supreme presence. Everyone and everything, anywhere, was right here where I was, present in the seemingly invisible now. One just had to think and it was available. The transmutation.
See, all you had to do was think and it was available. So we're powerful creator beings. Here we have yet another example. If you haven't been able to prove it to yourself, we have another example of how intention is everything. It's everything. And intention can get you out of this mess. So at the time of death, leading up to death, put your intention, even today, put your intention out there that you are a sovereign being. You are protected. You are shielded by your own will as a creator being. We can't allow exterior forces to get one over on us. And it's that simple. All we got to do is use our intention. That's it. It's so simple. It's incredible how simple it is. But they want to make us feel powerless. They want to. What's the craziest thing that like they drilled? At least they drilled in my head as a child, growing up in the system. They would say at school all the time, "You're nothing more than a grain of sand on the beach." I don't know how many of you got that, but I got that all the time. Nothing more than a grain of sand on the beach, a worthless little speck of nothing. Well, you know what? F you. We found the keys. We're going to take care of ourselves for once.
Anywhere was right here where I was, present in the seemingly invisible now. One just had to think and it was available. The transmutation within my electric body being completed, the electric body too, was no more visible because there was complete oneness. It was infinite to such a degree that I was no more, and yet I was that consciousness. There was nothing else and no other. Oh dear God, that is all that exists, the only being that is. That consciousness was all around, inside, outside, above, below. It was everywhere, the all. As one touched by the Philosopher's Stone, which is said to transform iron into gold, I had gone through a complete transformation and transmutation of the previous self into birthing a new higher self. I was bringing with it an immediate awakening into the knowing of universal truths and the reality of Supreme Self.
See how they kind of manipulate you into feeling or perceiving your power, but it's still under the umbrella of the Matrix. So as long as they can kind of give you that little nudge to empower you, but at the same time just jam it right up you, that's all they care about, because they know that you're going to be a customer for this lifetime. And then if you end up coming back here, well, you're going to spread your message far and wide so that other fools fall for it. Not fools, but I don't want to say fools. It's like this place is set up in such a way that it's incredible, the lengths that it'll go. But we're better than that. We're so much better than that. But it's going to give you that little glimmer of power. And then meanwhile, in the background, it's programming the code to make sure that the best outcome possible spits itself out so that you fall for it again. And then you get memory wiped. And it starts all over again.
Its magnificent, all-pervasive effulgence was so glorious. It was true. There is only one being, one God, and that is the true self of all. All are just a reflection of God. All are that one.
Ugh.
I too was that one. That is my reality. I was brimming, overflowing with the supreme knowing that the supreme being is my own true self, my true identity.
You see the quagmire there? It's like she's realizing her true power, but she's still within the confines of the Matrix system that's spinning off this deception. It's incredible to hear the words phrased the way it has. Just hear this one more time. I'm sorry.
That is my reality. I was brimming, overflowing with the supreme knowing that the supreme being is my own true self, my true identity. It was here, now, and always. There is no past or future. It is all happening constantly in the now. Losing it all, dissolving. I am that I am. Achman Brahmamsi.
Where's Papa at?
I knew that I was, and that I am all there was to know. Just like myself, all of creation, wherever and however it existed, whether human, animal, mammal, plant or nature, all were full in themselves. All were and are God, a beautiful, glorious expression of that same fullness.
Isaiah's what is I am.
Creation was just divinity experiencing itself through its creation. I was bathing in consciousness, as consciousness. I was enjoying this bliss of union with the absolute divine self, God, and full with wholeness of being. I wanted only to remain as this cosmic being forever. I never want to be separate again from this oneness.
Well, gotta go back to Earth. Sorry. Bye.
This all-encompassing love. This was my feeling as a faint memory of the world of separateness wafted into my consciousness, and anxiousness seemed to take over all of a sudden. I heard myself repeat twice, "Where do I go from here? Where do I go from here?"
Where do I go from here? Where do I go from here? So it's incredible, right? Because it's like she reached her kind of semi-pinnacle of inner knowing and her power. Matrices are allowed her this much. And then all of a sudden she's like, question, where do I go from here? What do I do? Well, step right up. It's almost time to go home.
Formation of destiny, which is created by our actions and reactions, the newly transformed being of myself now in existence, having received a downpour of higher truths and realizing its higher self from having merged in oneness with it. I knew that it had been brought within and as the pure energy of that one, of pure white light for a reason. So an element of wonderment was there at what might be coming next. Much to my dismay, however, the all-pervasive knowing came through with a much different response than what I was expecting. Coming loud and clear, it reverberated through that infinite space of consciousness. You have to go back. You have to do the work.
You have to go back. You have to do the work. Well, what a surprise. How many times have we seen this? It's so consistent. It's ridiculous. And this is what can help you prove the Matrix Reincarnation Soul Trap to yourself. These patterns are what, I live for. I mean, it really, it makes me feel good because it shows the deception up, front, and center and everything. It's no different. It's like once there's kind of like they give them this little bit of leeway, they give them this deception, this illusion, let them run a little free and make them feel amazing, and they're love bombing them up in the place. And then boom, once they're getting a little too close to the truth, and it's like, oh, I want to stay, or, I'm going to do my thing. All of a sudden, like different weird thoughts start coming through. And that's courtesy of the Matrix. There's no doubt about it. There are certain things that this system rolls out consistently that makes it easy to see how this whole thing functions. So, for as difficult as it may be, take solace in it because it's extremely helpful for research purposes and sovereignty and liberation.
Communicating that my real work on Earth was to begin now. I called out.
Your real work's about to begin now, but meanwhile, remember we went over the resume. I think her real work began much sooner. Doesn't mean she knew about it, but let's just call it what it is. The Matrix marketing department had a plan from day one.
Please, I don't want to go back. I'm very happy here.
Not
but
too
the
bad,
Lord's
gotta go.
supreme consciousness had spoken, and it had to be.
Exterior influence spoken.
Right then, I saw a long, flexible kind of tunnel which almost looked like a huge hollow umbilical cord. I could actually see the outside and inside of it. Inside it I saw the form of an unborn human baby, with golden light-coloured skin, curled up like a fetus against the inner wall. So this is the cosmic womb tunnel, I thought. It seemed to be coming from infinity and spiralling downwards.
I got a lot of cosmic wounds. I don't know about you guys.
Womb tunnel, I thought. It seemed to be coming from infinity and spiralling downwards. But as I looked at it carefully, I exclaimed in alarm. Oh no, not again. When I realised that I was that baby, speeding down head first.
Not again. Oh no, not again. I mean, how many, again, pre-birth memories. I'm sorry for stopping it so much, but we got this experience is loaded. Oh no, not again. one of the most common things we see in NDEs and pre-birth memories, and even some life between lives that lead up into the next incarnation, is that they do not want to come back. But yet they do. Yet they do. So why is that? Because the system, and they are so involved with the system, whether it's in this lifetime or a past lifetime, that they've convinced themselves through indoctrination, learned here, and through the attachments within the soul group and all this stuff. And it's just a repetitive process. And the only way to break free is to realize that the whole thing is a deception. The whole thing is smoke and mirrors, and that we are so much more powerful than we give ourselves credit for, or at least that we're knocked down to, that it's up to us to take the reins and reclaim our sovereignty and liberation. But until it gets to that point, until the illusions are thrown up against the wall and saying, whatever happens, happens, especially at the time of death, then it's going to be this nothing but the same old song and dance.
Oh no, not again. When I realised that I was that baby, speeding down head first,
the horror,
as the curled up fetus in this cosmic tunnel-like womb, I was crossing the dimensional barriers. I thought, oh God, oh no, I really was going back into Earth consciousness to be reborn.
Oh.
Next thing I knew, I heard myself let out a cry. I had opened my human eyes. They were looking in the rear view mirror of a car at a mouth bleeding profusely with the whole lower face covered in blood. In a complete daze, feeling totally disoriented, I touched the face in the mirror and realised it was my mouth. I thought, oh God, I have a human body again. I really am back. The lower gum bone had been broken and lay flat on my tongue. The 4 lower front teeth had come out of their gum sockets, but were still held by their nerves as they sat on my tongue in the middle of the mouth. Upon touching my face, I could feel tiny particles of glass from the shattered windshield all over my upper face.
Welcome back. Oh God, the poor, oh God, my heart just crumbles for her. Oh my God, poor thing.
Face. I could feel tiny particles of glass from the shattered windshield all over my upper face, and even my eyelashes. But none, not one, had entered my eyes.
Shit, Joe.
Miraculously, despite this gruesome injury in my mouth, I was feeling no pain whatsoever. There was no physical feeling at all. Such was the amazing divine compassion of the Lord. It seemed God had sent me back with the powerful anesthetic of his all-pervasive cosmic...
Yeah, that's just very divine compassion. Sending you back to Earth after a horrible car wreck with glass in your face and your eyes and whatever the hell else is going on. Poor thing. Oh my God.
Such was the amazing divine compassion of the Lord. It seemed God had sent me back with the powerful anesthetic of his all-pervasive cosmic energy, which was keeping me unaware of any pain. I was still consumed within the awareness of that bliss of cosmic consciousness, his pure love energy, and still immersed in that glorious realm of light and that oneness. Body consciousness had not yet set into my awareness. I was still very disoriented, much like an alien in a new place. I was not in touch with the human senses at all. Turning to my right, I saw Artie's secretary in the passenger seat. She seemed to have had a concussion and was moaning softly in pain. Since she had her seatbelt on, she was unhurt except for a few bruises. Wanting to wipe the pouring blood from my mouth, I seemed to see without seeing, as I automatically reached into the back of the side pocket of the car door and pulled out a napkin. Gently wiping some of the blood from around my broken mouth, my mind wasn't thinking clearly. I was perfectly calm, almost as if all was well and that nothing was broken. Trying to open the car door, I found it jammed. Since this was a two-door convertible, I reached over the other seat, opening the passenger door and climbed over the secretary, squeezing myself out and finally standing in the fresh outside air. It was a balmy night, with a nice soft breeze that almost seemed to be welcoming me back to the world. I saw a car standing in the distance with two young boys excitedly talking with each other. Another car pulled over, followed by bright lights as a police car drove onto the scene. I stood there with a bleeding broken mouth in a total daze, slowly taking in all that was happening outside and inside of me. Soon the policeman came over to me and started asking questions. Since I had no pain and was seemingly unaware of my 4 teeth and broken gums sitting on my tongue, I actually tried to speak, but all that came out was an unintelligible blubbering sound. I then realised how important the gum bone and front teeth are to speech. The policeman just nodded and proceeded to write down notes for a report and said an ambulance was on its way. He then looked in on the secretary, who was still concussed. A lady from the house nearby came running towards me and started asking if she could help in some way. She said that if I gave her the telephone number of anyone that I knew, she would be happy to call them for me. Searching inside Artie's handbag in the car, I found Saroj's phone number, the family from where Artie had been before this accident. So I gave that number to the lady. She went away and then came back again bringing a pack of ice and told me to put it on my bleeding mouth. I put it against my mouth for a few seconds. Realising there was no pain, I felt no need for it, so I handed it back to her, shaking my head. I tried to form the words, "No pain, no pain." "But how can that be?" she asked incredulously. "You have broken bones in your mouth and so much bleeding." I tried in vain to convey the words, "The light, the light."
Yeah, blame
Within the next few minutes, Saroj and some of her family members arrived. The ambulance also arrived, taking my secretary and my dazed self to the nearest hospital. Saroj and her sister-in-law Kamal drove behind the ambulance and came to the hospital also. Upon arrival at the hospital, the staff apologised for not giving me painkillers. They wanted to take x-rays and the medicine would hinder that in some way. But it didn't matter to me because I still didn't need them. No dental surgeon was on duty late Saturday night, so they had to send out for him, telling me that it might be somewhat of a wait. They took me immediately.
What's up with the eye symbolism there?
For x-rays. As I was being rolled away, I saw the secretary being rolled to another area. Saroj and Kamal were waiting as my stretcher was wheeled out of the x-ray room and followed me to my hospital room. Very lovingly and meticulously they stood and removed every tiny particle of the shattered windshield glass from my face and eyelashes. Amazing how my sweet lord had taken care to protect my eyes.
My sweet lord. My sweet lord. Your sweet lord, you know, life scripted you into a freaking car wreck. Sweet lord. Let's roll the George Harrison up in here. That's a whole nother connection too. I mean, not even gonna go down that road. That one, talk about that one for hours.
At this point, my heart was filled with deep, soul-stirring gratitude towards the loving Lord of the universe. More so as I had come down with total awareness of his presence and truth. It was as if the universal supreme consciousness I had been bathed in was very gently and lovingly taking care of every detail of my safe return. It was very clearly with me,
body.
and in me even now. After Saroj and Kamal had left about 1 or 2 hours later, the dental surgeon also arrived. By then I had spewed out large quantities of blood in a bowl they had provided. Since my consciousness was still immersed in the joy and bliss of the light, I was still in absolutely no pain. This was a good 4 hours or more since the accident and injury. God was making sure I remained in that cosmic state of blissful unawareness of body, mind and senses, so as not to feel what would surely have otherwise been excruciating pain. What a miracle. It was some kind of...
What a miracle. You're back. What a miracle. Praise the Lord. The Lord.
Not to feel what would surely have otherwise been excruciating pain. What a miracle. It was some kind of divine anesthesia. A beautiful expression of God's boundless love and compassion to keep away the unimaginable pain of broken bones and loose teeth from me. Again, God's hand was quite evident in the form of the gentle dental surgeon who was now standing by my bed. After looking inside my mouth with a very kind and loving smile on his face, he said, "You know, unfortunately there's no dental equipment in the hospital, so I'm just going to have to use my hands and some wire to temporarily fix your gum bone and teeth."
Oh, that sounds awful. Just so you know, we don't have what you need here at the hospital. But let me just go to the back room, get some wire and, we'll get that jaw straightened out right away. Come on.
Is that acceptable to you?
Oh, God.
Looking at the kindness and warmth emanating from him, I felt very safe and nodded. Yes. He started by giving a few anaesthetic injections within my mouth, thinking I must be in pain and would feel more soon. Then, with his fingers, he proceeded to lift up my broken gum bone from my tongue and gently made it stand in its place. Then he took the 4 teeth resting on my tongue in my mouth, still attached to the gum by the tiniest of thread-like nerve fibres, and placed them one by one back into their rightful sockets in the same broken gum. With some wire, he tied the loose teeth to the solid ones, wiring the gum and teeth together. He asked me to see him for intensive surgery on Monday morning. Since his clinic was closed on Sunday, I had to stay wired up like this for 1 whole day and night.
Terrible.
Then he patted me on the back for being so brave and left. The bleeding had stopped and I fell off to sleep, but woke up in the morning almost screaming, for I was experiencing unbelievable deathly pain.
Welcome to Back to Earth, baby.
It was killer pain. I then truly understood the agony I had been saved from for the last so many hours. Such grace. The nurse came right away and gave some strong...
Do you hear how ridiculous the trade-off is? I realized how lucky I was that I wasn't in pain for the last couple hours, but hey, welcome back. The makeshift dentist doesn't have what you need, and you're going to have to go in for some sort of aggressive surgery on Monday, and not to mention the glass and everything else that's happened so far. Yeah. Oh, what a relief. I had a couple hours where, I didn't have to deal with it, but hey, welcome back to Earth. You'll get through this. You'll get this. The Lord is sitting there waiting to just take care of your every need. And then you come back and you realize where you're at. You realize that you're back in the meat suit. Oh, this poor Mira. Oh, poor thing.
It was killer pain.
Killer pain.
I then truly understood the agony I had been saved from for the last so many hours. Such grace. The nurse came right away and gave some strong medication that made the pain somewhat tolerable. What a lesson the pain had given though. My first lesson on my return into the world. Pain was truly only in the mind too.
Oh yeah, only in the mind.
Right after the accident, my mind became non-functional, as I was in a state of higher consciousness. There was no experience of pain, for there is no such thing as pain in that state of being.
Oh. Okay, so what? They gave you another break. They gave they gave you a little break period, like in high school where you get like 15 minutes 15-minute break or something, or a lunch break, 15-30 minutes where you're not in pain, you're outside your body, or regretting that you have to even sit at the lunch table or something, and then boom. Oh, well, guess what? Fifth period starts. Time to go to class. Welcome back to Earth. It's just, the excuse train never ends. Yeah, the Stockholm Syndrome is just roaring and ready to go in front of all of our faces. Just keep making excuses for this dumpster fire that we all reside in, and don't you dare question it. Don't you dare.
No experience of pain, for there is no such thing as pain in that state of being.
Praise Jeebus. A pronoun.
That is a function of the mind and senses. The senses got activated only after I was drawn back into bodily consciousness, and by the painkillers and the doctors working on my mouth and myself giving attention to it.
Why do you need painkillers? I thought the Lord was taking care of you. You don't need painkillers. Deny the painkillers. Go full throttle into the pain. Welcome back to Earth. Experience it organically.
So it was only a matter of where the mind was focused, really. As the saying goes, it's all in the mind. In the state of cosmic consciousness, there was no pain or pleasure. There was no duality, as there was no sense awareness.
Oh, they'll make sure to take care of that very soon.
There was no pain or pleasure. There was no duality, as there was no sense awareness. There is only isness. Everything just is. Awareness of higher self is being a love energy of total equanimity and balance, the peace that passeth understanding. It is a deep samadhi-like state, unaffected by anything or anyone. A state of timeless Satchit Inanda, being, awareness, bliss. In wonderment and gratitude, I thank that Supreme Consciousness for allowing me to know this experientially.
Yeah, let me get some gratitude up in here for coming back to Earth and dealing with shattered glass in my face and needing a full-on dental reassignment. Sounds awesome. Okay, so I do have to take a break. We're at like an hour and 40 minutes almost, so I'll be back here in about 5 or 6 minutes, probably more like 6 minutes, and we will continue on. So thank you for your patience, and we got a little bit more to go. Probably another, let me see here. Try to give you an idea. Oh, probably another like 30 minutes to go, tops. Maybe. We'll see. We'll be right back, my friends. Thank you.
On the outside,
welcome back, my friends. And just as a reminder, this channel is for educational purposes only, or entertainment purposes only, depending on the letter of the law. Want to give a big shout out and hello and thank you to Super Unknown, Voidwalker, Black Uni, Drones and Other Tones, Lawrence. Good to see you, my friend. Kayla. Sorry if I'm butchering that. Conscious Soul, and everyone else watching tonight. And hope you're all doing well. Also wanted to give a big thank you to Pixel Dust and JB and No Normal Productions and everyone else watching tonight on Odyssey and Rumble and Twitch. So, okay, we are going to let me just go over a couple things quickly. The monthly members live stream for Odyssey and YouTube members for this month is going to be on Sunday, April 30th at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So that will be Sunday, April 30th at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And if you're interested in joining the Last Timers Club, there is a backlog of videos that you would get access to. If you're want some extra content each month, you'd also get access to the Last Timers research and chat server, and some bonus videos on occasion. So feel free to check that out. There are links in the description. And if you are interested in supporting the channel, please consider using Stream Elements or Stripe. As with YouTube, they take 30%, last I recall. And I know through Odyssey and Stripe and Stream Elements, they take anywhere between like 3 and 7%. So I know a number of you have asked me where's the best to donate. The best one overall is through Stripe, and that link is available in the description tab. And of course, your support is appreciated but never expected. The point is to get this information out there. And about, I would say, 95% of my content is free, doesn't cost a dime or a penny. And it's all about spreading the word. So the other thing is I have 2 YouTube backup channels. So, in this day and age with what's going on out there, might not be a bad idea to consider subscribing to those if you follow the channel on YouTube. Odyssey and Rumble is not as much an issue, but on Odyssey and Rumble, I do occasionally do platform exclusive streams that you can't find on YouTube. And so if you're interested in signing up, my personal preference for platforms is Odyssey, but they, whenever there's any sort of topics that I can cover that can't be discussed on YouTube, you will find those on Odyssey and Rumble. And then for Twitch, I do very, very laid back, occasional truth in gaming streams. It's light commentary, but by no means, am I some professional gamer or what have you. So just going to put that out there right away. And so if you're expecting some professional production or anything like that or commentary, it's just not the way it is over there. But feel free to join me on Twitch. I do occasionally stream there and send out notifications. I also have a Facebook, a Twitter, and an Instagram, and mostly those are used for notifications too, because every time I poll, the chat, as far as YouTube notifications go, I get about between like 30 to 40% of you saying that you're not receiving notifications. And so following the channel on other platforms may be worth the consideration. And of course, the members Discord server, I always give an hour notice if I can in advance, sometimes longer. And that leads me to the last thing for the evening before we continue on with the NDE. Our good friend Harold will be joining me on Friday the 7th and Saturday the 8th. Right now, we're scheduled for Friday the 7th at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and Saturday the 8th will be 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And those are subject to change. But as of this moment, we're going to be diving into part 2 and part 3 of the Pre-Birth Memories series with Harold as co-commentary, co-commentary guest, and look forward to seeing you then. So that'll be, again, Friday the 7th and Saturday the 8th of April, 2023. All right, so let's move along. And, one last thing. I'm sorry. I have an email list. And feel free to join that. That's another thing. To date, I've had it. I haven't sent one email out, and I'm not going to spam your inbox like crazy, but there will be updates sent at some point, especially about the upcoming website that is going to be released this year. I know I've been saying that for a while, but it will come out, and maybe some other things too. But it's a good way for us to kind of like having an alternative platform that you follow the channel on. If this type of content interests you, it's a good thing to have, because never in my life would I thought I would have signed up for Facebook again after being off of it for, I don't know, 4, 5, 6 years. But even something like that, it's just a way for us to stay in touch. So if you have these alternative platforms already, check out the description tab and follow the channel. Okay, so thank you for dealing with the channel marketing BS. And it's not the Matrix marketing department.
In wonderment and gratitude, I thank that Supreme Consciousness for allowing me to know this experientially. On the outside, the accident was something terrible that had happened. In reality, it was a monumental gift of grace the Lord had showered, this precious awareness of Atmic discovery. What a gift through an accident. To take a soul, entangled in human trials and tribulations,
what a gift,
out of the human realm altogether through the realm of death and into the supreme light,
what a gift,
to reveal to it its eternal self, its divine identity, and there unite it with its real self, the supreme self itself.
The supreme deception. The supreme deception.
Precious blessing. Then to bring me back into the human realm, whole within myself, wholly transformed by the supreme light presence of pure unconditional love, filling my being with divine knowledge, to begin life anew, as the life divine. For even as I lay on that bed in the hospital, all wired up and smiling contently, I seemed to almost take on a vow. As I knew, mine would be a sacred life dedicated to the Supreme, to be lived in full knowledge of my true being, and compassionate loving service to all He sent to me. With this knowing, a prayer went out from within myself. I would try to stay within that knowing I had received as conscious awareness. I would walk solely on the legs of truth and righteousness, extending compassion to all with the arms of love and non-violence, and try breathing in and out the peace that pervades the whole universe, the peace of the absolute oneness of all.
Peace that pervades the whole universe? What about here? Let's just get real. What about what's happening here? Does everything seem love and light and peaceful, and it permeates the whole universe? Let's just call it out for what it is. This system is trying to sell us a bill of goods over and over and over again, and it's just hoping that we buy into it lifetime after lifetime. That's its number one objective, to get you to buy into it and then memory wipe you, memory wipe me, and move along to the next victim.
The arms of love and non-violence, and try breathing in and out the peace that pervades the whole universe, the peace of the absolute oneness of all. Gradually, as I shared this knowing and moment by moment tried to see and love the God within all, I would surely lead a blessed life and help in spreading that love and truth of who we really are, and the divine power that we all are. The magnificence and pure love and bliss that exists within each and every one of us, and that there is absolutely nothing to fear, especially death, for we are eternal and we never die. That is the core essence of the God self. Its temporary individual self and all other selves are comprised only of love, love, and love. That God is love and love is God. Continuing to swim in that beloved consciousness, lying on the hospital.
What a sham. What a sham.
And love is God. Continuing to swim in that beloved consciousness, lying on the hospital bed that night, it dawned on me that this is what awareness is. This love, this peace, which seekers of truth here in this world were yearning for.
Oh, God.
They searched to find that happiness which constantly eluded them. I had to...
Yeah, I mean, you have to think of it this way, right? If everyone's seeking this, and I would say that, you know, not everyone is seeking this, the love and light mentality, but for those that kind of fall into it, there's a whole industry ready and waiting for them. And if not, then there's other industries related to religion and love and light, or a vengeful God, or what, you know, you pick it, it's out there and it's ready and waiting to suck you in, as long the number one objective is to make sure that you can falsely realize your power within the whole confines of the matrix system, or you can realize your true power as an essence being capable of sovereignty and liberation, and go a step out, not just go a step, but go many steps over the matrix and see what exists beyond. Experience what exists beyond, not what the system is telling you to believe in, because it just wants you to believe that one last time. I know I've said it a lot, but can't be stated enough. It's just trying to get us to buy into what it's trying to sell.
Them. I had to somehow help. That it was my duty to my other selves. After the hospital, Saroj and her family came to pick me up from the hospital that Sunday afternoon. Since I was now back in body consciousness, the excruciating pain continued to be truly unbearable, even with very strong medication.
What do you mean? I thought everything was love and light.
The pain lasted for 5 to 6 days. I went for surgery Monday morning. The surgeon said he either had to remove all the 4 teeth and put in dentures, or at best he would have to do a root canal on all of them. But since the nerves were still attached to the teeth, I assured him that my God would take care of this and to please somehow save the teeth. He hesitated at first, but then agreed, saying it was my responsibility, and I would definitely need root canal work on them in 2 to 3 years.
Yeah, just consent and sign on the consent and sign on the dotted line. That's all it wants. Getting a little late here. I'm kind of tired, but we've got a little bit more to go.
Definitely need root canal work on them in 2 to 3 years. I was okay with that though. It took almost 5 hours for the surgery, where he placed a full set of metal caps and wiring on my lower teeth to help them settle back permanently and allow the nerves to heal. Since the teeth setting was very fragile with a broken gum bone not strong enough yet to bite any solid foods, I was supposed to be on a liquid diet until it became strong. I stayed for a week at Saroj's house to recover from the mouth surgery. I then returned to my home in the Bay Area where I lived alone since I was single. For almost 1 year I stayed on mainly Ensure Plus, which is a liquid food, just like I was a newborn baby. Existing in a very different inner world of my own, it might sound strange, but I was still quite disoriented. Everything seemed new, and I was trying to get used to the world around me. Fortunately, nothing seemed to have truly affected me emotionally. I remembered Artie's life but was quite unaffected by it. My lifestyle was almost the opposite of what Artie's had been. My body structure had also changed. Food preferences were different. For example, Artie didn't quite much care for chocolate and ice cream, but I love it. I had somewhat of a singing...
Okay, these are weird things that I've run across too, where the replacement factor comes into play. I mean, it really does. Really think about it, guys. You have a being before their near-death experience who did not like, let's just say chocolate, right? They don't like chocolate, but they come back and all of a sudden they like chocolate. Or they like vanilla, but they didn't like vanilla before. What the hell is going on there? I think the replacement or exchange of a being is very, very possible. And you can't forget, remember everything that we went over at the very beginning of this video. What better individual to kind of transfer consciousness into at the behest of the Matrix than this vessel? Just throwing it out there. I'm not saying that's what's going on, but it sure seems to point towards it. Just saying. Take of what you will.
Artie didn't quite much care for chocolate and ice cream, but I love it. I had somewhat of a singing voice, whereas Artie couldn't really sing too well. I was more of a quiet personality, wanting to keep to myself. I'm very selective of whom I spend time with, whereas Artie had an extrovert personality and was very happy to be mixing in society, attending parties, public relations, and just generally being social. My clothing choices were a bit more conservative too. Interestingly, people around me would say, "There's something different about you after the accident, but we can't tell what it is." I could tell, of course, but they would never understand. On the physical level, if one looked carefully and compared the eyes of Artie and myself in photographs, they were absolutely different from each other. We were almost like twins, but different. My desire for the world and its attractions was very minimal, as I knew it was temporary and not real. Still fresh from the return and wanting to go back there, I decided to go into a world where I could still be in that consciousness, at least some of the time. So in December of 1995, I completely walked away from the high-end lifestyle of Artie, the successful financial consultant. I gave up the properties, the big house, worth approximately $3 to $4 million today,
Whoa.
as well as cars and other material possessions. I then left for India.
I mean, really, if something is going to overtake a body, which very well may have occurred in this situation, and you have a value of 3 to 4 mil, and remember, we went over her history, what she was involved with at the very beginning of the stream. But something is off here. It seems like something came in and took over the vessel. And this is something that does pop up from time to time. It's not consistent by any means, but it is something that does appear, or at least can be suspected from time to time if you consume enough of these types of experiencer cases.
To the ashram of my spiritual master, Sai Baba, which was the only abode of peace I knew. My name was officially given by Sai Baba as Mira S in an interview in 1996. After which, my disorientation with the world seemed to subside to a great degree, as I finally had some identity of my own. I returned to California after almost 5 years in September 2001, on the day of 9/11. It took 5 days to reach America from India. I stayed with my brother and his family as I had given up my home. In 2000...
Wait, what? I'm gonna rewind this, but I don't think I can say much.
I returned to California after almost 5 years in September 2001, on the day of 9/11.
On the day.
It took 5 days to reach America from India. I stayed with my brother and his family as I had given up my home. In 2002 I went to the Himalayas for a few months, climbing up to 19,500 feet in the snow. When I got back, I went to Stanford University for a while to study child developmental psychopathology. I thought I would try to help juvenile delinquent children. Then I opened a holistic store in San Jose for about a year. I closed it and went into real estate for a few years. I started a non-profit, studied at World University, and was ordained as an ecumenical minister. In 2007 I opened a multi-faith sanctuary in San Jose for 5 years, trying to help people who came there. In 2010 I went back to the Himalayas for about 4 to 5 months, meditating in many sacred caves, bathing in many holy rivers. I came back and was divinely guided to close the sanctuary.
Oh, I bet.
Since then, I have been spending time in India and the US, trying to finish 2 books. One book is a poetry book of mystical meditations of the knowings which I experienced from the other side. It is almost complete and ready for publishing. Many miraculous events have occurred and continue to occur. I live in wonderment and surrender to that supreme being and his...
Surrender. One of the most vile words in this realm is surrender. Every time I hear it, it just makes me want to like quiver in the corner and just so sickening. Surrender. Seriously.
Events have occurred and continue to occur. I live in wonderment and surrender to that supreme being and his love. Mira S. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. May all the beings in the worlds be happy.
How about the Boca Vista? The Boca Vista.
Thank you for spending the time to read this integral part of my life story. Hope you enjoyed that one, guys. That's one of the best things I've ever read out by far.
Okay, so yeah, I'm getting kind of tired here. I'm sorry. Both yesterday with Dan and tonight was late nights, and hope you gained some further knowledge about the Matrix, Reincarnation, Soul Trap. And Mira, if you are listening, I just want to let you know, I try to say this every stream where I go over an experiencer case, that, you know, nothing is personal. It's all about the data trends at the end of the day, the patterns that show this world to be a complete clown show. And that's what it's all about. And I'll just say this, that, the experience we heard tonight with Mira is no different. And we should really be thankful in our own way, our own sovereign way, that we have access to such information as we do today, because we couldn't have picked a more prosperous time to reincarnate than the internet age. And even though information is slowly closing in on all of us, there is a lot to be gained. And I hope those that are still on the fence or kind of otherwise in denial about what this whole experience is and how it functions, that you take advantage of researching on your own. That's the number one thing. It's like, do your own research. I hope that my channel just acts as a stepping stone for each of you, and you can go out and prove it to yourself that something isn't right. Something is really wrong with this whole experience, and there are truth bombs all over the place, and it's just a matter of being receptive to their symbols, right? And how they prove the overall functionality of this Matrix Reincarnation Soul Trap. So thank you for joining me tonight. I hope you all have a good week ahead. Don't work too hard, and we'll see each other again soon. Like I said, we're going to be meeting with Harold on Friday, April 7th and 8th. Friday should be at around 7 p.m. and on Saturday, on the 8th, that should be about 4 p.m. Eastern time. So feel free to set your cell phone alarm or calendar or whatever have you. And links will be coming soon. I'll be sure to pop those in the community tabs and on social media if you'd like to join on those. And that's going to be part 2 and 3 on pre-birth memory. So thank you again. I'm pretty tired, but we'll see each other again soon. Thank you.